Okay.
VercayRadio.com, certified #1 digital talk radio station in the world. The power of women.
A New York City address is instantly recognizable and impressive to customers and clients. Starting at only $1 a day, nycvirtualoffice.com provides mail forwarding options, including a walk-in location, and receives mail and packages to national and international customers with no setup fees and no contracts. With your Fifth Avenue address, you can incorporate your business, open bank accounts and lines of credit, and gain instant credibility. Call today, 212-726-1000. That's 212-726-1000 or online at nycvirtualoffice.com.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Vercay Magazine. I'm your host, Bennie Randall Jr., aka The Motivator, and you can learn more about me at BennieRandall.com or my private community at BennieOnDemand.com. That's BENNIE ondemand.com. Thank you for joining us on another powerful edition of Vercay Magazine. My guest today is an extraordinary woman. She needs no introduction. Why? Because every Tuesday she brings you one of the hottest shows on Vercay Radio. Her business, her voice, her conversation. Hot damn. Margot Lavette. I call her, and I'm coining this right now, Margot. She is the queen of reinvention. Margot, how are you doing today?
I am so good. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Randall. That is, what an opening. I love it. Thank you. And you know what? Some people would say, oh, he just made too much out of it. But can I go ahead and toot my own horn for a minute? It took grit and gumption, nerve, and investment to become the queen of reinvention. And I am so happy and blessed to be here with you tonight. So thank you for this opportunity.
Let me tell you, if you don't toot your horn, who gonna toot it? You understand?
For real.
You gotta toot it so they can hear it, and then they'll start beeping and bopping it, right? You
Yes.
better ask somebody, Margot. Let me tell you why I call this young lady. And I can say that because she is very youthful in her wisdom. I call her the queen of reinvention because she has fully recreated herself into whom she was supposed to be in the first place. She left the corporate world and she never, ever look back. So Margot, here's my first question. That day you made up your mind, and I want you to take my listeners there. I want y'all to close your eyes while Margot talk here, and I want you to focus on this, Margot. That day you said, I'm done. This is my very last day in the corporate world. Tell us what that was like and what it felt like. How did it feel going out that door?
It felt scary, but it felt like a decision that had to be made. It's Christmas Eve, and the office was shutting down early, and I looked around, and I just thought, I can't come back. This is it. Got involved in a harassment type of situation that had been going on for, the harassment began in the summer, and I just made it until December. I looked around and I said, I can't do it anymore. I can't look over my shoulder and hope that he doesn't come into the office. I just can't duck and dodge any more phone calls. So I looked around and I took my favorite sweater and I just bounced, as they say, and I I knew that if I was going to protect my health, and that's mental and physical health, that was the decision that I had to make. And a lot of people say, well, you should have fooled around and let them fire you or something. No, it was my decision to quit. I was literally running for my life. I had reported this person to HR twice. Nothing was done. So I had to do what I had to do, and that was to leave then, not look back. And it was the best thing that I ever could have done.
I love it, Margot. Let me ask you this question, Margot. Who, without saying the name, who were you running from?
You know what?
In what one capacity of this individual? Like, what was your interaction? Was this your immediate supervisor? Was this your boss? I guess that's what I'm asking without saying the name.
From the environment, he was a quasi boss that I was running from. But this thing threw me so, when it happened initially, it threw me into a place where I remembered something that happened to me when I was 19 years old. So I was not only running from this quasi boss, but I was also running from something that happened, abuse that happened to me when I was 19. And I didn't even realize that that's what was going on at the time. I just knew that I felt so terrified and so bad and shaking and crying, and I couldn't make heads or tails out of anything. So in answering your question, I was running from him, and I was running from something that was unresolved from back when I was 19 years old.
Oh my goodness, Margot, when I'm on this microphone, we're going to get to the nitty gritty. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what you were running from? Because here's what I believe, Margot. I believe there's somebody listening to this show right now that's running, and they haven't found the door they need to get to. And maybe this is going to be the inspiration they need. If you don't mind sharing a little bit, what was you running for without getting, I guess, too graphic? If you don't mind, if you do, then you just say, no, I'm not going to answer your question, Bennie. But what can you share with my audience you was running for? Because it's important that people understand that sometimes the things that we are going through right now are the results of things that happened to us in the past.
Yes, indeed. And that was exactly it. I worked at this major corporation for 26 years, talked to people all over the globe, male, female, 26 years, every day, just talking to people. But this day in particular, this gentleman called me, and he was very abusive, and he was rattled, and he reminded me of the conversation when I was 19. And all I could hear was that tone and the abuse. And my body remembered because it started shaking while we were on the line. And when I was 19, I was in a very abusive relationship, boyfriend, as I called him. And one day I said something, and I heard that tone. And before I could get out of the room, the man had jumped on me, and he was just hitting me. And I didn't even say anything, but I remembered that tone that led up to him just jumping on me like that. And the only way I got out of the house that day was that his brother came in and wrestled him down, and I'm kicking and I'm pushing, and I run down the stairs and run out of the house. And I just remember that tone, that crazy tone that you don't hear from people. But I heard it that day at work. I heard it, and that's what set everything off. So looking back to help someone, I would say, first of all, if they jump on you the first time, that should be the last time. I really, that in all honesty, that was not the first time. But that day I paid attention to that tone. That's why I knew what was going to happen, what was coming on. So if they do it one time, then you're probably not wrong to expect it to happen again. And it has nothing to do with them loving you, not loving you, none of that. It's them. Don't you hang around for that. And get yourself some help. Because had I sought some help, had I not decided to bury it, thinking that I was weak and what was wrong with me, that he would even do me like that, then I probably would have not taken it so personal when this gentleman came across the same way. And when I researched and I went to HR after the incident, I found out that he had been overwhelming and overbearing with other women, but nobody did anything about it. They didn't care to take it as far as I needed to take it. So that's it in a nutshell.
I love that. I love your transparency, Margot. That's because that brought back something personal and close, because my sister was murdered by her husband at age 25 because she wanted a divorce, and he said, if I can't have you, no one can have you. So, and I think what was more important is that she never told anyone, because she had a couple of brothers that she would have probably responded in a different way had they known what was going on. And so the fact that she kept it to herself made the difference of probably the result, because no one lets anyone mess with their sister, the little sister at that. So I applaud you for doing something about it, and I applaud you for speaking up. So you basically was speaking up and Me Too in way back when, before even people even know what was going on. So that's I applaud you for that, with the utmost respect. So now let's move a little forward, because we want to get into this reinvention part of it. But I was glad that you gave us, that background, so now people can see, okay, here's what Margot went through, and here's how she got here to that point. And I love you exposing how you felt when you decided it was time to leave. When you decided it was time to leave, and this is a very important question, did you feel it was time to leave because he pissed you off and made it uncomfortable, or did you feel it was time to leave for your own well-being?
That's a good question, and I can answer it knowing that it was time to leave for my own well-being. I never had a problem with my blood pressure or anything like that, but everything had spiraled so far down the rabbit hole until my numbers were off physically. I was actually going to a therapist because I couldn't make heads nor tails of why I was crying every day, and I would even call the therapist on the way to work. That last month it got just that bad. And why was it every time the phone would ring, I would just start shaking? So I needed some answers and some closure about all of that. So long story short, I left for my own well-being. I was totally angry with the company, totally. But, it came to the place where I couldn't even care about being angry with them. I had to make sure that I was going to be okay, because I have a daughter. And, she wasn't a baby daughter, but I had a daughter. My mom's health was failing. And, my health had to come into play. I had to take care of myself. And that's where that came from, just running. Take your sweater, put your purse, and corporate teaches you well to document everything. So take your folder, take your calendar, take your files, take everything that you haven't already sent to your house, and get your favorite sweater, and you get to getting. That's what you do, so that you can save yourself.
I'm laughing because you said you get to getting.
Yeah,
I know that term from the South. Yeah, it's like you get to getting up out of here, boy. I tell you that. Margot, I'm so glad that was your answer, because I think, and the reason why I asked that, because I think a lot of times people get up and move for the wrong reason. They don't move for themselves. They move for everybody else. And then I often wonder, if you're only moving for for the other people, when do you move for yourself? And I'm so glad that your answer was your own well-being, because here's what I do know. Without peace of mind, nothing else matters, Margot. Do you agree?
Yes. Yes,
You know, without
totally.
without
Peace
peace
of
in your
mind,
life.
you can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't function, you can't move forward. Without peace of mind, you are paralyzed and you are no good to anyone. That's what I found out.
You better preach that, girl. You better preach that thing right here, right now. Y'all, amen. Y'all send something in for Pastor Margot up in this piece. Okay. I'm just messing with you, Margot. But people don't realize the beauty of peace and the beauty of enjoying yourself, and the beauty of you finding who you are. So, Margot, let's fast forward now, and let's walk into the light a little bit. When did you know it was time to rediscover and reconnect with your voice? Margot Levette, her business, her voice. Oh, it's just.
Well,
it's
I tell you
incredible.
what, after I got to getting up out of that place, it took about a year to go ahead and restore my health, mentally and physically. And I live in Southern California, so I had access to some of these game shows that I always wanted to go to. So my girlfriend and I, we did a lot of game show hopping, and we discovered new wine. And, I just decided I am just going to live. I was going to follow what the therapist told me was really going to get me out of this funk, and just, you're away now. You're free. You're okay. He can't hurt you anymore. You know, Mr. Randall, there were times when I would look up and down the street looking for his car. I mean, this thing had me just cuckoo. It was just crazy. So it took about a year to get out of all of that and get my numbers right, my blood pressure down, and they even had me on some depression medicine. It was just oh my God, it was unbelievable. But about a year, I started looking at this business plan that I had on my bookshelf, and it was all about podcasting, which was something that I'd done, terrestrial radio, podcasting. That was a hobby. It's what got me through working corporate. And I quit all of that, but people always told me I have a good voice, and I love to talk. I'm always curious, super, super curious. So I looked at the binder, and I thought, wow, why not? Why not give it a try? Hadn't recorded a show in about a year and a half. Wasn't sure about the mic. Wasn't sure about anything. But I felt that hunger coming back, and that old thing of, oh yeah, why don't you try this? And that after about a year, I started feeling like myself again. And I want to do this. And yeah, why not? And I prayed. I'm a Christian, and I prayed and said, well, if I do this, if I do get a podcast going, what is the name? What are we going to name it? And I kid you not, because I was dead serious about starting this. And I've been thinking and praying and going to bed thinking about it a couple of nights. I literally had to jump out of my bed because her business, her voice, her conversation, I heard it in my head. And I learned as a writer, you always keep a pad and pencil next to your bed. But I literally had to jump out of my bed and write it down because I knew that's what's new. That's the new thing. That's what's me. That's where I'm going. That's where I'm headed. That's Margot Levette. And the rest is history.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to pivot back for a second, though, before we move forward, because you're right. We need your conversation, and I listen to your show every week faithfully. Okay, so every week. Here's what I want to ask you, and about this. A lot of times, people, and I'm gonna just say it. People that look like me and you, we won't go get therapy. We won't go get help.
Yeah.
We won't. For somehow we see it as something. I don't know why. maybe you can enlighten, but what made you actually go get therapy, and what did it do for you, and how can you encourage maybe some people out there, because there's something about talking about what you're going through that can help you get through it. And a lot of times I'm not going to pay money to talk to somebody about that. I'm not going to pay money for this, and et cetera, et cetera. Tell my listeners how important it was to have a therapist.
I couldn't figure anything out anymore. That thing had thrown me. And all I could think of, 26 years, and you talk to people all over the globe every day, men and women. What was it about this conversation, and my first thought was, why can't you shake this? I understood it was his tone and all of that came with it, but why couldn't I shake it this time? And I come to the conclusion I wasn't supposed to. I had to face what happened to me way back then, talk about it, and take away the bears and the owls and the things that trouble you at night about these things, the shame of letting a man jump on you, and then you let it happen more than one time. Were you desperate to have a boyfriend? All of that stuff that I had covered over for so many years. And then my own self-esteem. What happened to my own self-esteem that I would let that happen? And I just had to understand what was going on with me. I had to. Here I am, a grown woman, and this thing has thrown me for a loop like this. I had to get to the bottom of it, and I couldn't figure it out. My sister had already passed. She was my best friend. I would have gone to her, but she was gone. So I had to go to somebody who didn't know me, who wouldn't judge me, and let me just cry and stomp and be mad and just really be transparent and make me be transparent, because when you've been holding stuff that long, you just want to tell the foo-foo, fluff stuff, and you just want to feel a little bit better. You want to feel better, but to tell the foo-foo stuff will make me feel a little bit better, and I'll go along with that. But as she dug and she confided some things in me that happened to her, a family member had done that to her, jumped on her, then I felt like, okay, she can relate to where I'm at. I can tell her a little bit more. We can cry together, and I won't feel stupid. When there's some days when I wanted to leave the office because I was just ashamed, she'd say, well, you can leave or you can stay, and we can get this better. We can make this better. So you need the support from a person who doesn't necessarily know you, a person who can give you things to read, a person that can encourage you to journal. And, people that look like me, we need to talk these things out, because we don't just have abuse that goes against us. We have working as a single parent. We have so many cares of the world that come into play until you can't begin to uncover all of this stuff by yourself. And to invest in yourself, I guess that's why I became a strong proponent of investing in yourself. Invest in your mental health. Invest in your health so that you can invest in your entrepreneurial health. It all goes hand in hand. And I'm a talker. I'm sorry, that's a long way through the forest, but I totally
okay.
believe.
That's okay. I'm a talker too, and I love hearing you talk. And you have that radio voice that makes it soothing. So, we're both on the same road. Something interesting that I heard what you were saying in your answer, and that was you kept blaming yourself. When did you stop blaming yourself? Because I think that's what happens to a lot of people, whether men and women. Things going on in their life, and it might be because of how somebody else was feeling that they want to throw it on you. And then you get what we call that victim syndrome, where you just blame yourself of why it went on. Like, when did you stop blaming yourself, and how can others who are blaming themselves right now and listening to this show, Margot, because I believe somebody needed to hear this, how can they stop blaming themselves?
With the help of a therapist who's going to tell you that what happened to you, he did that for his own reasons. Maybe you said something that would trigger him, but he came into the relationship with issues that didn't have anything to do with you. And you are, as an adult, have the right to speak and to be yourself in a relationship. And when the day comes that you can't be any longer, then you have to leave. You have to do that. And you have to understand that it wasn't your fault. It just wasn't your fault. That day on the phone, it wasn't my fault. I was just doing my job. And when you do that internal work and you're honest, when I was 19, that was not my fault. Here I am, 60 years old. That was not my fault. That's when I got my freedom. When I truly believed it, I had to believe it. I had to know that whatever transpired that day was not my fault. And it took me some time, but I believed it. And then I had to conclude, you know what? It's not even HR's fault that they didn't do anything about it. It's nobody's fault. It all worked together for good for me. Once I went and I got the help with a therapist, as the word says, all things work together for good for them that love the Lord. Period. Point blank. It was time for me to leave, and I was stuffing away my 401k. I was comfortable, just going to coast along a little while longer, but it was time for me to start this podcast. It was time for me to understand the power of podcasting, and it was time for me to do it then. And that's what I came to believe. That took place of my blaming myself.
So in other words, like what I've heard before is that, when you want to stop doing something, like, whether a bad habit, you can't just stop it. You have to replace it with something, in order for it to really take effect. So you replaced all your doubt with what your strength was, and that was getting on that microphone and allowing people to expose themselves and their power and their gifts and their nuggets that you share with millions of people around the world globally now. And that right there, my friend, is an incredible gift and an incredible blessing. So I salute you on that. Margot, let's fast forward a little bit because I know we're running low on time. Tell people about your reinvention and how did you come to the point it was time to reinvent yourself? Because I think we all go through phases in life. Like myself, I used to be a rapper, shaking what my mama gave me, before I became investor and CEO and entrepreneur. So I had to reinvent myself from what I was then to whom I am now, Bennie Randall Jr., aka the Motivator. Tell the listeners about the process of your reinvention, and I call you the queen of reinvention. Tell them how they can reinvent themselves.
I tell everybody, start with a mentor. Start with a strategist. Choose somebody who's doing exactly what you want to do. Because especially coming from corporate, there's so much that you don't know. You know a lot, but there's so much that you don't know. So I knew that I wanted to get back into podcasting. I knew that I wanted a stellar show. I knew that I was not playing with this next move. So I hired the best that I could hire, and this is where this investment thing comes in. You can't be too cheap. You are so worth the investment of hiring the best strategist, somebody who can show you what your steps are to be so that you can go ahead and be successful. He forced me, and I'll say forced because I really didn't want to, forced me to write a book. After, I think we were 6 months into podcasting, And the show was really going off really, really well. And I got a chance to become a part of Bashani Radio. Thank you, thank you, thank you. He told me, he says, people know who Margot Levette is on her business, her voice, her conversation, but they don't know who you are. You need to write a book. And that was hard, because there you go, being transparent once again. And you know, nobody wants to read fluff. People want to understand, how did you do this? So I wrote the book and actually talked about taking it back to childhood, feeling some kind of way when I was a kid, taking it on up to coming to the reinvention. So you have to write. I found writing a book really, really helped me. It gave me a lot of clarity as to how did this happen. And then doing the podcast, because I want to be true and be sure to bring on the guests that help others understand that I did it, you can do the same thing. Now listen to these guests, because they're going to tell you about copywriting, all those things that you need to know about. How did they step out of their comfort zone into what they're doing now? Princess Banton, who the producer of Housewives of Atlanta, Casey Grant, the first African-American flight stewardess for Delta, Lee James, who came from a horrible, horrible past, and she brought home bronze in 2015. How did these women do it? And then even now, former Congressman Walter Tucker, had a conversation with him. What was that like, to come up under corruption charges, and you did some time in Lompoc Federal Penitentiary, and here now you're Pastor Walter Tucker III. So I bring on people like that who just reinforce the fact that we reinvented ourselves. You can also. Now reach out to any one of us, and we will help you do the same thing. That's pretty much my story. Can I give you a quote, something that from President Barack Obama that really enlightened me a while ago? Can I share that?
Margaret, you're the queen. Whatever the queen wants, the queen gets. You go ahead, right ahead.
President Barack Obama, out of his book, The Gift of Hope, the words of Barack Obama, on April the 7th, 2009, he said, if we don't try, if we don't reach high, then we won't make any progress. And I say that to anybody who's thinking about coming out of corporate. You want to become an author and a podcaster. You want to become an influencer. You want to become a speaker. Whatever you want to do to reinvent yourself, if you don't try, if you don't reach high, because we can always try, but our reach always has to go high. It always has to. Then we won't make any progress. And can I add, we always have to come out of that comfort zone. That's all about reinventing ourselves. That's where it's at. Mm-hmm. Don't stay comfortable.
Margot, God forbid, but I tell you, if you died today, what would you want your legacy to be?
That she was bold and she was fearless. And she did it even when she was scared. She did it even when she didn't see the end, there was so much that she didn't know about podcasting and broadcasting and this thing of being an entrepreneur. But she dared to get into the game, and she dared to stay, and she did it. That's what I want people to remember.
And you know what, Margot? You didn't just do it. You did it damn well. You hear me? That's what I absolutely know for a fact. You did the damn thing, as they say. All right? So yes. Margot, for those that are listening and they want to get in contact with you, do you have a way that they can contact you if they're interested in maybe trying to find out how to reinvent themselves? Because I resort back to what you said earlier in the conversation, that is, get with somebody who's doing what you want to do. So for those who want to reinvent themselves, how do they get with you?
Okay. I am so happy to say that I'm getting a brand new website built, so they can go to Margot at www.margotlevette.com. reach me right now. If it's okay, I'd like to give everybody a tool, a marketing tool, and that through that they can reach me also. It's the podcast marketing tool, and it's all about how it helps you through this. You'll find me, and we'll have a conversation about how you can reinvent yourself. And if that reinvention thing takes you to become an author, a podcaster, an entrepreneur, then you're going to want this podcast marketing tool. And it's simply text reinvention, REINVENTION, at 42828. It's a podcast marketing tool. Text reinvention at 42828. My website is margolevette.com.
Wow, that is very powerful. So let me ask you this, Margot. If I ask you, and we're getting down, so I want to make sure I get you out of here on time. I could talk to you for the next couple of hours because I love when you throw out that wisdom to help those, and you do it every single week. But I felt it was time for you to get on the other side of the microphone just for a moment. Mm-hmm. So if I can ask you for 2 nuggets for somebody wanting to reinvent themselves, what would those 2 nuggets be?
Just get started. First thing is just get started. Don't wait for all of the answers. I don't think that you're ever going to have all of the answers. But as I say, get with that mentor, that strategist, and decide in your mind that you are going to get started. Second thing is, do not compare yourself to others. There are going to probably be some times when you're going to feel like Noah building an ark. Many things in this life, they start out slowly, and it takes a moment for you to get your voice, for you to get your feet on the ground and really move this thing of reinvention along, even though consistency is where it's at. But get started and be consistent. Build up on what you say you're going to do. If you're going to write that book, then I don't care if you have to go ahead and get a recorder and speak the book into existence. You can always transcribe it. If you say you're going to be a podcaster, get with me or get with somebody else who can go ahead and get that thing together. Let's take one day and let's build the doggone thing. Let's not deliberate. Let's do it. And if entrepreneur, yeah, it's a rugged road, but get yourself in position so that you can be a blessing, and you can be blessed. But those 2 things, do it, get started, be consistent.
And as we begin to wind this down, Margot, let me ask you something. Can you explain to the listeners how important it is to, and you alluded to it earlier, but how important it is to invest in yourself, because we spend so much time looking at what everybody else doing, as they say, counting other people's money. Social media gives you a peek into people's lives or whatever lives they want to show you. And sometimes I get it can be overwhelming when you see everybody else making a little something and you're not, or vice versa. They look like they're making a little something and they're not. But that's a whole nother show. But
yeah.
But what I would like to say is this: how important it is for people to get off their assets and start investing in themselves. Because if you don't invest in yourselves, as I said earlier, when you say, could you toot your horn? I was like, if you don't toot your horn, who gonna toot it for you? Because ain't nobody out there ready to toot your horn. You gotta toot it and make them notice that you even got a horn. How important it is for people to invest in themselves.
It's imperative. If you, as a matter of fact, Dr. Tanya Lowell was on the show, and she gave me a startling statistic. She said that 3% of people in business invest in themselves, and I was appalled because you know what, Brother Benny, if you don't invest in yourself, how dare you think that somebody ought to invest in what you're doing? You're shortchanging people if you don't invest in yourself, and especially when you're starting out, because you don't know what you don't know. Don't fake the funk you don't know. So you're wasting a lot of time and you're wasting money, and it doesn't have to be. find that person of integrity. Find that person that you can connect with and do that. Don't be so cheap. You're not going to save that money. It's going to burn up in your hands because you're not going to be able to advance as quickly as you should, as quickly as you want to, because you don't know what you don't know. You haven't been down that road before. There are those who have. There's some things they can tell you to do. Some things they'll say, honey, don't you do that. That's a waste of time. Or they'll just point blank say, you're not ready for that. So you need those conversations. If a person doesn't invest in themselves, I'm looking at them real funny, And as a matter of fact, before they come on the show, I'm asking who have they, what was the last class that they took or something like that. I'm just kind of probing around because I want to know that you're legit. I really do.
Because when you invest in yourself, you never stop learning. No matter how successful I have become, I would never stop investing in myself. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars investing in my knowledge and everything I want to do, because what I've learned is that you are your very first investment, but you're the most important investment, because you can't even begin to know how to invest in others and other things, and still you know how to invest in yourself and your empire. And I keep telling people, if you want to help people, you can't do it broke. You understand? You can't be starving trying to help other people. No. You know what I mean? Because that food you're giving away going to start looking good at one moment. You're going to be like, hold up, why am I giving away all of this food right here? You know what I mean? So you can't be starving. So it's better to be on the other end to be able to help somebody, cross over, as Tyler Perry recently said in his speech on BET, helping people cross over. And that's what I do here with Vashani and Vercay Network, is helping people cross over to their message, helping people get to their end. Margot, I think every week you come on, you're helping somebody cross over. You're helping somebody expand. You're helping somebody open their mind. All right. And in our final words, because I know you got to go, I'll be pushing you to the last minute. What is your final words?
My final word is a quote that I heard, I think, a year and a half ago, and I did some digging because I wanted to find out who's the author of it, and I found a couple of different things, so I really never got to the bottom of who's the author of the quote. But I did not come this far to come this far, and that's my final thought. And it's all about just got to keep moving. Keep making it happen. I love the conversations that I have with you. You are an amazing man. You really are a straight shooter, amazing. And I didn't come this far to come this far. So everybody has to listen to somebody. Everybody has to listen to somebody that they like, know, and trust, So, and make up in your mind, you didn't come this far to come this far. So let's do the doggone thing.
Margot, you got about 3 minutes left. One more time, how people can reach out to you if they want to get your help in their reinvention process.
Text reinvention at 42828, and I will get your name, and we'll connect that way. And I'll also give you my podcast marketing tool. It's something that I've put together for you, and it will all boil down to the reinvention process. My book is going to be up on my website, which is under construction right now, margotlavette.com. I'll even go ahead and give out my office number. I have no problem, because I'm quite a talker, and if you're bold enough to go ahead and call me and say, hey, I want some information about reinventing myself, I'm bold enough to give you some information. We'll have a conversation.
All right. Hold on, Margaret. You sure you want to give out your number to people?
Okay, no. You're right.
You sure you want to give out your number over these airways?
I want to, but I hear you. I want to, because the world is so full of different kinds of people.
All right. Well, the platform is yours. Go ahead, if you may. Go ahead.
Nah, let me reach people through podcast marketing tool. Text reinvention at 42828. Let's start there. And next week, my website should be up, www.margolevette.com. That should be sufficient.
Margot, like always, I know you gotta go. We got less than 60 seconds. I just want to say I love you, and you can't do a damn thing about it. Thank you for being here on Vercay Magazine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you how you bring talk alive to people on a platform that we really were suffering to have access to. And the shows that are on Vashani and Vercay, they are amazing. They are heartfelt. So I could go on and on and on, not just because my show is there, but the quality of the content that you allow us to bring is totally amazing. And so it comes from an amazing person. Thank you so very much, sir. And thank you for this opportunity.
God bless, Margot. I know you got to run, so you can go ahead and thank you for being here. I appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave you with this. Margot Levette, her business, her voice, her conversation. She knew when it was time to reinvent herself, and she had zero fear when she did it. She did what she needed to do, and as you heard in this conversation, she did it for herself, not for anyone else. She did it because it was necessary for her to do it, to change her life, to get out of that corporate merry-go-round, and to live the life that she felt was necessary for her to live. And ladies and gentlemen, that creates an amazing life. Margot Levette, we salute you right here on Vercay Magazine. Thank you for being here, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back next month with another powerful cover issue of Vercay Magazine. You can learn more about us at BennieRandall.com or Bashani.tv. All right? Until next time, I love you, and you can't do a damn thing about it. Good night.
VercayRadio.com, certified #1 digital talk radio station in the world. The power of women.